Stranded after the carriage accident, Princess Mia and Prince Sion spend the night by a bonfire. While Sion shyly tends the fire, Mia teased him and later challenged his sense of justice, asking if he'd condemn his friend Abel for wrongdoing. His answer? I'd have no choice. Enraged Mia, who recalled her past execution and blamed him for never warning her. The next day, exhausted and hungry, Mia nearly ate a poisonous mushroom before a hunter named Muzic saved her. He led them to his village, where Mia eagerly enjoyed hare stew while Sion quietly gnawed the region's surprising peace despite rumors of rebellion. For now, Mia's thought drifted only to her next sweet treat, unaware of the deeper conflicts ahead. While Mia was enjoying her exquisite hare stew, Anne had finally arrived back to Tearmoon. Despite the tiredness from the trip, she eschewed rest in favor of efficiency and immediately went to see Ludwig. She conveyed Mia's words and actions accurately and without any omission. Gracious moons. Her Highness, how could she? I've heard that there's turmoil in the Kingdom of Remna, but... Damn it! I completely forgot that one of her classmates was there. Originally, Ludwig wanted to dispatch Mia's exclusive princess guards to ensure her safety, but that would be problematic diplomatically. The alternative is to dispatch personnel comparable to an army unit. If we move the army in this situation, they might think that we're trying to invade, which leave me as the only option, huh? Gotta say, the princess really is a bundle of excitement, isn't she? This is no laughing matter. If something happens to Princess Mia, just thinking about it gives me the chills. Relax, she'll be fine. Miss Anne mentioned that the Prince of Solang is with her, right? I heard the kid's got a mean sword arm. Unless he meets a dangerous guy like me, they'll be fine. Probably. Under different circumstances, I'd really agree with you, but something's not sitting right with me. The Kingdom of Remno is in no way on the brink of a revolution. Eh? What do you mean? Revolutions are very risky. If they fail, the participants are executed. So, it does not make sense to take such risk unless they have no other choice. And by other choice, he means they're already dying. Only people whose lives are a living hell would do it. If one is suffering to the point that death is a better alternative, then they can go ahead and rebel against the royal family. If they succeed, then their lives will be better. If not, then they just die a bit sooner. Oh, I see. So, is the Kingdom of Remna not yet in such a terrible state? Not according to the information gathered by our intelligence department anyway. Ludwig is steadily building connections among officials to help Mia. While he was not Lloyd Forger, he had access to enough information to grasp the internal affairs of other countries. I've done a little bit of digging myself. It's true that the tax hike has heightened public dissatisfaction, but the impact should not be fatal. At least not for now. Anyway, this revolution shouldn't have happened, but it did. And that makes me think somebody's trying to start a fire. It's not just a fire, or arson. I see what you're getting at. This revolution is artificial. Someone grabbed a bunch of people, lit a fire under their asses, now is fanning the flames. You're right. That does sound like a dangerous place to be in right now. Then, that means it can also be stopped. If someone is inciting the riots, then they can just catch that someone. Anne thought that if there's anybody who can do it, it would be her mistress, Mia. In fact, she was probably thinking that, so she rushed there in the first place. Fat chance. That's not gonna happen. Well, might be possible, at least before any blood is spilled. Why is that? That accelerates conflict and makes it irreversible. Dion was not talking about ethics, but rather from a practical point of view. That was irreversible. Ergo, so were its consequences. I see. Is that why you didn't take any military actions against the Lulu tribe? Well, at that time, I did want to keep the casualties to a minimum for both sides. What I thought was amazing about our princess was that she acted immediately after hearing the story of Viscount Berman. If even one life had been lost, then it couldn't be solved neatly. You see, once that enters the picture, the conflict will detach from the problems that caused it in the first place. It will be about that, rather than the root problem. Then violence will spawn more violence. It will self-propagate until neither side has the option of backing down. But the princess, she did not let that happen. She came in quickly and mitigated the danger by pushing the two sides apart before it was too late. Then, she went straight to the root of the problem and solved it. It was really remarkable. Princess Mia displayed a masterclass performance in problem solving. Mia-sama. Which brings us to our original questions. You see, if the princess wants to solve the situation, she should do it before a single death happens, whether it is on the side of the Renmo Kingdom's army or the Revolutionary Army. That's just impossible if you think about it. Still, if it's Mia-sama, then she definitely can. Next day, Dion, Ludwig, and Anne set out to the Kingdom of Renmo. The seed of miracle that Mia had unknowingly planted would sprout in the heart of the arsonist, fanning the revolutionary flames. Not a soul yet knows what kind of flower it will ultimately yield. After 2 days of rest and recuperation in the village, Mia and Sion were introduced to a merchant who was heading to a neighboring town.
What's your back out there? You here?
Mia waved back at Muzic as they departed the village. He's been so terribly helpful these past few days. I wish there was a way we can repay him. I hope Kipwood and the others are safe. That's right. Of course. The reason they fell into the river was because their carriage was attacked by assassins. After that, they don't know what happened to the carriage or whether Kipwood and Fiona were safe. Wait a minute. Why does it matter to me whether those two are safe? After all, those two were her enemies. Their well-being hardly seemed worthy of her concern. Still, well, I guess I can spare a moment to pray for their safety. Kipwood is an important person for Sion. Their bond reminds her of the one she shared with Anne, her most loyal attendant. I'm surprised that he has a human-like quality. The earnestness of their friendship struck a chord in her, and so she spared a little time to pray for their safety. They were using the forklift wagons. It felt terrible for Chloe if something happened to it. I will also pray for the driver. I suppose Kit would help me with the sandwich, and the same goes for Tiana. So, I guess I can spare them a bit of a prayer. If we run into those assassins again, it's going to be tough on my own. Her thoughts were suddenly interrupted by Sion's silent mutterings. How thought exactly are we talking about? I will make every effort so that you can escape safely. Kidwood, sweet moons, Kidwood, please be safe and come back to us. For the second time, Mia offered a prayer to the sky. It wasn't quite as wistful as the first one, but it was definitely more desperate. I must say, it looks peaceful around here. Half a day had passed and they were out of the forest. During that time, there were no major problems. It was the normal, idyllic landscape of the countryside. The passerby looked incredibly carefree, seemingly unaware about the conflict in their country.
There are no bandits around here, so it's a place that it's easy for us to do business.
But there's a civil war going on, right?
It doesn't mean much to us. I've heard that there was a bit of a riot in the town of Condemn. It's rumored that the Diamond Legion was sent out to squash the rebellion.
The Diamond Legion? Aren't they the elite troops? If they were sent, then it wouldn't be much of a battle. It would be a one-sided slaughter. What is this Diamond Legion? It is an elite unit under the direct command of the king. The Tearmoon Legion is an army unit created by the decree of the current king of Remno. It shall be the strongest heavy infantry unit in the world. It shall be composed only of soldiers, who are each a match for 1,000 men. It was 10 years ago that the recruitment began in response to the king's decree. They recruited regardless of status, nationality, or even criminal background. They searched everywhere for people of immense stature, bringing in people who are gigantic. Successful candidates were put through rigorous military training to drill them into elite soldiers. The result of all this was the creation of a terrifying army of hulking muscle men, each built like a tank. Wait, that's not quite right. Each built like a siege tower. Yeah, that's better. I heard that Diamond Legionaries don metal armor from head to toe and hold huge battle axe in one hand as if its weight is nothing. Sion explained this with grim seriousness. Mia, on the other hand, had a dreamy sparkle on her eyes. Oh my! They sound so strong! In general, Mia had a positive impression of muscular men, based on previous experiences, Captain Dion and his vice captain. I wonder if I can recruit some of them into my princess guard. By the sun, the magnitude of the damage they can do will be unimaginable. Even though it is a revolutionary army, they are still citizens of this country. These are the people who stood up because they couldn't bear the heavy tax. The king has decided instead to suppress them with the most brutal force. Sion felt anger towards that king. He understood that rebellions need to be quashed to protect the sovereignty of the royalty. He also understood that it was necessary to use overwhelming force to minimize casualties on the army side. But there must be a limit to these things. There has to be, right? Diamond Legion was a military force of the highest caliber. They were a weapon of mass destruction, and this destructive potential should be directed outwards against trained armies of foreign enemies. Moreover, assuming Sion's memory was right, this is their maiden campaign. Morale should be quite high. They would be hungry for glory and blood. Sion looked at Mia. Perplexed by the bright smile she continued to wear. He could not understand why Mia was still in a good mood even after hearing everything. He could glean no further insight from her face, so he grudgingly turned the conversation back to the merchant, who, to Sion's surprise, promptly gave him his answer. So how bad is it? How much damage has been done?
None, according to what I've heard.
What?
Apparently, there hasn't been any actual fighting yet. I mean, they are the Diamond Legion after all, and diamonds are pricey. You can't kill them willy-nilly.
That was all Sion needed to hear to put all the pieces together. He finally realized what was happening. At the same time, a shock ran down his spine. No way. Did Mia figure all of this out already? So, this was the reason why she was just smiling even after hearing what I said? The situation, however, was proceeding in a direction that no one was expecting. How did this happen? The man here on the verge of a nervous breakdown was known as Graham, inside the Kingdom of Remno. He had been contacted by his associates currently working undercover in Tearmoon. He was informed that their efforts to sabotage the Empire had failed, so he has to proceed with the plans in Remno early. Are you freaking kidding me? Originally, the plan to bring down the Kingdom of Remno through chaos in revolution was supposed to be after the Tearmoon Empire had fallen. It was meant to be a slow and careful process that would take at least 10 years. The plan was to slowly corrupt the government to the point that there will be a political decay. Then, they would water it with the blood of its own people. Only then will the seed of revolution start. Once this was accomplished, they would be able to harvest the fruits of their slow and bloody labor. Except that now, they were telling him to get on with things right away. The plan was designed to unfold over a decade. What the hell was he supposed to do with that kind of scope, schedule, or budget? It's starting to sound like the company I used to work at. But enough about me, and let's go back to Graham. But I have to make it work. We have no choice. If they don't act now, all their plans, everything they worked toward, was at risk of being dismantled by the great wisdom of the Empire. It took them a long time, but they had finally managed to infiltrate the Remno government. They were going to be the seeds of ruin that will suck the kingdom dry. But now, they are looking at the blade who will uproot them in one go. He pressed his temples, trying to keep the growing sense of panic at bay. But what specifically was making him so desperate? Well, the cause lay in a series of letters. Yep, those very same letters that Mia had been exchanging with Abel secretly since they parted ways from St. Noel Academy for the summer holidays. Graham and his companions had embedded themselves deep into the kingdom's government. There were limits to their access, of course, like official missives from the king were out of the reach, but intercepting private correspondence between a prince and a princess was easy peasy. And when they opened those letters and read their contents, they were baffled. Because what they found were just plain love letters. Yes, really cheesy love letters. They were filled with that awkward sentimentality of youthful inexperience and expressed in a language so banal, one would have wondered if the writers understood love at all. Faced with such trifling content, Graham and his associates let out a collective sigh of relief, patting each other on the backs and not giving the letters a second thought. Were, of course, the kinds of things they absolutely didn't do. No. That just made them more suspicious. They stared at the letters, truly discombobulated by how innocuous they seemed. This is Princess Mia we're talking about. Is she really the kind of person who would send such a cheesy letter? The thing was, well, it wasn't only a single letter. The blistering pace at which she was exchanging letters with Abel was entirely abnormal. Again, if they had been dealing with a regular girl, this would have been labeled as unremarkable. And so, they did not believe that these are just ordinary love letters. Because of this, they redoubled their efforts to decode the messages that were surely hidden within what seemed to be innocent wordings. But to their endless dismay, they could not find anything. No patterns, no ciphers, no secret code words. No matter how much they analyzed them, they seemed to be just love letters. They even considered the possibility of an invisible ink that could be revealed by applying heat, but they decided to go against testing them. If someone receives a brown or burnt letter, then it would be obvious that someone had been snooping at their correspondence. If they blew their cover, their slow and arduous infiltration of Remno would have been in vain. Not to mention, if they would still not find anything after that, they would have jumped off a cliff in frustration. Abel's present for Mia confused them even more. I mean, who in the right mind would give horse shampoo to a teenage girl? It totally doesn't make sense. That's for sure a coded message to send cavalry, right? Or to start amassing war horses. One of them went as far as suggesting to pour the shampoo on the letter in case a secret message might appear. Luckily, this person was collectively stopped before it was too late. If only their collaborators at Saint Noel had told them that these two were in the Equestrian Club and were always flirting, it would have given their minds a break. But even spies had communication difficulties. Those were simpler times, you know? The end result was that they were not able to glean anything from the correspondence between Mia and Abel. We know one thing for sure though. There was definitely confidential information being exchanged between Mia and Abel. The former being the one who dismantled with masterful precision our meticulous and long-running plan to topple the Tearmoon Empire. We have to do this now, before it's too late. Before the wisdom of the Empire arrives and ruins everything. In their desperation, they accelerated the plans far earlier than they originally intended. The first step in the plan was to abduct or assassinate a well-known figure who is known to carry the voice of the people. In the Tearmoon Empire, that was supposed to be Outcon Rudolban. Here in the Remno Kingdom, it is the Chancellor, Count Dasayeb Donovan, who has a reputation for being upright and sensible. This veteran politician who turned 60 this year was known as a conscientious man and was opposed to the recent military buildup announced by the king. He was also against the current tax hike. That made him the perfect target. Then, they circulate rumors that the king had Donovan abducted and imprisoned for speaking against him. The next step is to approach the people who had been holding grudges against the current Remno government, stir up their anger and push them to revolt. They would not be demanding something outrageous like overthrowing the government. Their demand would be something simple like, how does it sound? We are fighting to get our beloved Lord back. We demand the safe return of the man who was the voice of the people. Having a moral cause, the rioters would feel that their actions are justified and would greatly enhance the movement's persuasive potential. Once they have built up momentum, these angry activists would occupy the town within Count Donovan's territory. Naturally, the Kingdom of Remno will send troops to suppress the rebellion. It's a win-win situation from there. If the revolutionaries win the ensuing battle, the rest would be easy. They would loudly announce their victory to the rest of the kingdom and appeal to the masses to join their cause. On the other hand, if the army successfully crushes the rebellion, they could simply denounce the government for this cruel act of suppression. Once the news spread, it would feed into the anger harbored by the people that will light the fires of revolution throughout the whole kingdom. So far, the first and second part of the plan, that is the kidnapping and occupation of the town, has gone relatively well. Did it go that smoothly? Here, give me that again. Graham felt a slight sense of discomfort when he saw the reports from his colleagues. Peaceful surrender of government facilities, blah 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 blah. Disarming of the garrison without fighting, blah 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 blah. The results are definitely ideal, but something was wrong. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being manipulated, and he was not a player, but a mere piece on the board. This is it for this video. We will continue with the story of the Guillotine Princess in the next episode. It was Marco and Brian from Jobless Weeks. Matane!